Welcome to another episode from the Nerdy Joe, and today let's talk about GameStop.
What is Gamestop? Gamestop is the world's largest video game retailer in the world with over 5,000 stores. Gamestop was founded back in 1984 as Babbage and only changed its current name in 1984. Back then, video game is having a revolution in the market where most consoles like Nintendo and Sega Genesis seems like a cool thing to have and have contributed to the rise of GameStop as one of the leading retailer in anything gaming. But that's the thing, GameStop was in decline since late 2010s due to the shift of more online downloadable games and content directly without the needing to get physical gaming software from a store, and e-commerce presence directly from the manufacturers like Sony, Nintendo and Microsoft. While gamer in the past has always go to store like this for a sense of belonging, but due to COVID pandemic and stores were forced to shut their doors and move towards non-bricks and mortar presence. Not because they wanted to, but they're forced to. GameStop has struggled and its share price tanked just like many retailers before this like Toys R Us, Blockbuster. As many of my videos suggest, new pandemic behavior and buying pattern will always stay even when the pandemic is no longer here. GameStop did make a lot of terrible acquisition and even venture into smartphone retail, which proven to be cutting a hole in their pockets after all these losses. Mobile game dominance, which allowed games like Fortnite, Minecraft to directly run on your phone without ever needing any physical software, is slowly nailing the nail in the coffin for large video game retailers like GameStop.
In 2019, Google launched Stadia without needing expensive hardware like a console or GPU like those pricey RTX 3000 series, while in the meantime making physical game even more obsolete. While Stadia has mixed reviews, but I believe technology will improve over time to enable this transition.
And in the meantime, there's still gamers who prefer physical games that go to GameStop for the experience. But records history shows, just like our experience on CDs, owning a record for a favorite musician, it won't be lasting long until you realize the subscription to like, let's say Spotify for $9.99 a month that could listen to most of the music that you could probably listen. The sales of these CDs and records are almost non-existent today, and new hardware, laptop, and all desktop doesn't even have a CD drive. And even moving this drive that include your hard disk and having SSD, the future of not having bulky optical drive doesn't have to wait because it is already here.
Gamestop. One of the most volatile weeks on Wall Street.
So what happened to GameStop shares? Let's cut it short and come to our main focus today. GameStop shares has risen more than 1600% so far this year, which doesn't make a lot of sense when GameStop has been making losses of almost $800 million in 2019 and hundreds of millions too in 2020 when the results will be releasing soon. But was expected, and the stock is heading to a different direction from the fundamentals. A losing-making company and a potentially dying business is making a rise in share market, and is attributed by one thing: Reddit. And this is when Wallstreetbets comes in. Wallstreetbets is a subreddit founded by Jamie Rosasinski, where participants or redditors discuss stock and option trading by a group of young traders or investors. It only have a couple of thousand users at first, but exploded in 2019 when a lot of brokerage like Fidelity Investment eliminated trading commissions and essentially free to trade. And this is when the popularity exploded, and ignoring traditional method to get stocks by doing the complete opposite from what Wall Street is doing, and then risky and often being branded as being unrealistic until it happens. This GameStop saga wasn't started by Jamie, but instead by a user known as Roaring Kitty, and this is Keith Gill. Keith began posting some findings on GameStop and realized GameStop actually had quite a fair amount of cash in the reserve, and there's still a lot of demand on physical gaming products and wouldn't likely to make all the shift to digital in all of a sudden, and the transition is slower than expected. And some users absolutely agree that GameStop is overvalued, and the share price of GameStop is low because of the manipulation of hedge fund. When they found out 84% of GameStop position was being shorted and betting the price would go down, Keith himself invested $53,000 of his own money on GameStop, which in turn has become $48 million by February, at a peak of almost $500. But of course now it has fallen to somewhere around the range of $70, but still much higher than what Keith or the users initially put in. At that moment, some users see this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play a game that the Wall Street leeches were playing, all this while traditionally only Wall Street wealthy investor wins. Some of the members borrow funds like student loans to purchase these meme stocks. While Keith is posting his finding, a user posted a document titled Bankrupting Institutional Investor for Dummies featuring GameStops. This user pointed out that hedge fund is heavily exposed and vulnerable, and the Wall Street bet farmers love the idea. The risk to the common user was that they put in the money and it dropped to zero and they lost all the money. But the risk for the hedge fund, particularly Melvin Capital, is that it could lose more money that they put in with interest. And they realized these hedge funds couldn't be holding their position for too long, and worse still, use borrowed money to short this position, and this only caused the price to actually increase even more. And it all happens in their own game plan. By end of January, hedge fund had lost over 70 billion, and the biggest casualty itself is Melvin Capital, which has lost almost $3 billion. And the people love it. But first, you need to know what short selling is. Short selling is to borrow a stock at a higher price and hope that the price will go down and making a profit. Or let's make it simple. Let's say you borrow something like a basketball card from a friend that's valued at $50 and promise to return it back a week later. You do it because you expect the price to drop and sell your borrowed card that you did not own to someone else at $50, and a week later it dropped to $40, and you use the $40 to buy the card back and return it back to your friend and pocket the $10 difference. But let's say the price of the card has increased to $100. Now you have to pay an extra $50 to buy the card back and give it back to your friend, and the interest that you need to pay for the card. So if theoretically the price of a card has tripled to $150, now that you need to pay $100 from the initial $50 that you put in to buy back the card and return it back to your friend. Congratulations, now you have lost $100 because now you have to pay more than what you put in at $50 to buy back the card and give back the borrowed card to your friend with a crying face. And don't forget about the interest, and the losses can be more than what you initially put in if the price keep rising. Of course, you could wait the price of the card to go down again, but you have to pay the interest of borrowing the card at the first place. And because you're holding the position and people were buying and supply is limited, it will attribute it to the rise of the card that you borrow from your friend.
It's amazing that the average person can now actually get a fair shake since against the hedge funds, because the hedge funds have been beating up the little investor since the beginning of time, pretty much.
And traders on Wallstreetbets are no longer there solely for profits, but instead represent the 99% by eating the 1% in their own game. Just like what the Joker said, it's not about the money, it's about sending a message. And it goes to show that when people are good together, they can hit any companies or corporation or even institution when they are united. It's like a stock market form of protest by playing their own game to go against them, the hedge fund. So what happens next? Now that the rich investors actually mad at someone, play by their rules and getting poorer as a result of that, Exchange like Robinhood has put restriction on GameStop retail traders like those from Wallstreetbets, which is ironic when Robinhood is doing the complete opposite from the actual Robinhood by doing what it could to protect the rich. When Robinhood has stopped its traders from buying and selling and calling them manipulators, and Robinhood is not, this is beyond me. The traders have since moved their position to other exchange like Fidelity. There is no restriction, and Robinhood CEO is even being roasted by Elon Musk by his action.
The financial system that allows customers to trade shares is sort of a complex web of multiple parties, and it's hard to. I think everyone says, oh, it could be better, it could be improved. It's just the necessity of trading equities in the U.S. that you have to do all these things.
I mean, to what degree are you beholden to Citadel? I mean, like basically, if Citadel's unhappy, then what happens?
Yeah, so that there was a rumor that Citadel or other market makers kind of pressured us into doing this, and now that's just false, right? Market makers execute our trades. They execute trades of every broker dealer. This was a clearinghouse. This was a clearinghouse decision, and it was just based on the capital requirements. So, from our perspective, Citadel and other market makers weren't involved in that.
But wouldn't they have a strong say in who got put in charge of that organization, since it's an industry consortium, not a government consortium, or not a government regulatory agency?
I don't have any reason to believe that. I think that's just like, then you're getting into kind of the conspiracy theories a little bit. So I just have no reason to believe that that's the case,
Okay. All right. Well, I guess so we'll see what happens with future actions. Hopefully that was insightful or at least a little bit entertaining. Are you not entertained?
Historically, many hedge fund managers exert influence over trade. If they want it to go up, it will. If they want it to go down, it will too. But not this time. And some even call it the greatest short-selling fail in history. By telling those greedy Wall Street fellas, if you have influence, we had to. After all these years, you finally are calling for the common to go against the rich, and particularly the financial market that screwed people over and over again. But again, it doesn't mean that Redditors are the only winners out there. Even large institutional buyers or investor was in it as well. Let's just say it takes time to bring all these hedge funds one by one. Robinhood wasn't only the culprit in the fiasco. Discord banned Wall Street server, but with backlashes. And if you know anything from the internet, you can ban or remove anything from server, but users will always come back with a new one and sprung to a new life, just like Pirate Bay. As February came by, panic ensued and price has dropped, but they are all holding to the position, know that the hedge fund will soon has to sell their position to avoid paying higher interest they have to incur. But some of the users were in on the absolute peak and lost all their money and broke the most important rule in investing. Never invest more than what you are willing to lose. And don't be a FOMO. But there's also people who see it as a donation for the good cause to punish the rich rather than the investment. The CEO of Robinhood, Brad Knapp, testifying on Congress from a rules of restriction on buying as a form of manipulation, citing communication issues, and more hearings were expected. No pity for you, Vlad. Even after Robinhood restriction was lifted, it might also signal the end of Robinhood, at least for now, when users is migrating. Hey now, guess what? It's not end of the story. These crying short sellers are now striking back at Roaring Kitty or Keith for his supposedly role at this Gamestop Saga. A class action suit was filed by Christian Irving state that Keith was actually a licensed securities professional who manipulated by misleading the users and profited himself on YouTube and Reddit. Seriously, this is how low this bunch of losers would go and wouldn't let one off easily, and also act when they lost, and as if your poor people aren't allowed to win at all. Supports from all over the Reddit communities are pouring over for Roaring Kitty or DFV, the fucking value. Should be found on these real manipulators on Wall Street. But it seems like they didn't have any issue to date. Even the banker who crashed the financial market in 2008 into chaos. Many GameStop Redditors investors are now small owners of GameStop. They have a voting right to make a decision for the company into the right direction for now. I don't see GameStop will bankrupt or go bust anytime soon. When something gone as viral as this, with the support from the people, I really doubt the problems of fundamental couldn't be fixed. Sure, it will go down, but I'm sure GameStop will be able to survive the next decade or so. This whole Gamestop saga has turned GameStop from a gaming retail company to still a retail gaming company to the tool to win the rich and powerful. I bet my every penny Hollywood is gonna make a movie starring Jack Black on it. I'm just kidding. But best of luck to all the Redditors. Feel nice to have our underdog to win the top dogs any time of day. And also spreading to other stocks like AMC targeted by these Redditors. And soon this story about GameStop will be taught around the world in many business schools, and even how social media is able to get a win against the rich and powerful and on their knees. From GameStop to Arab Spring, and the story is still unfolding. And I guess this is about it, and this is the story of Gamestop Saga. I'm Nerdy Joe. Do consider subscribe and comment, and I'll post videos like this. While you're here, do consider watching my other videos. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.